Ladies and gentlemen,
Presenting.
rolling, rolling,
Rolling.
Roland Martin. On his way to the airport. Where you on your way to, Roland?
To Cabo for the second annual Life Plus Jazz Experience. 14 different acts. All right, Kurt Whalen, Don McClurkin, Ronnie Laws. It's going to be packed next 4 days. I'll be doing Roland Martin Unfiltered from there Thursday and Friday. So
good for you.
Yes, and of course, golf clubs are in tow. Absolutely. Yes.
No doubt.
No doubt. Looking forward to it. Folks, many of folks have been looking forward to the 2020 election, which means that they were ignoring the 2019 election. Yesterday was election day all across the country. Big wins for Democrats taking the governor's mansion in Kentucky, also taking over state government in Virginia, but also progressive district attorneys have been winning all across the country. Likely head to a runoff in Houston with Sylvester Turner. Plymouth, North Carolina, congratulations, Black Voters Matter. First time, Tom, 63% of that's a small town, black. Never had a black mayor, never had a majority black city council. Now they do. So congratulations there. Joining us right now is Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. Tom, you certainly feel good this morning.
I do. It was a great night for Democrats across the country. We saw Virginia. This is the first time in a generation that Democrats have controlled the governorship in both houses. I'll tell you, Roland, a big thing there at the end of the day was gun violence reduction. There was a special session called by the governor a few months ago after the horrible tragedy. And within 90 minutes, the Republicans who were in charge gavelled it down because the NRA is based in Virginia and they didn't want to go against the NRA, and the people spoke very loudly. In Kentucky, a state that Donald Trump won by 30 points, Andy Beshear wins there. Louisville was huge. The African-American community was indispensable to its success. What I see in all these elections yesterday, and frankly, this is now the third set of elections since Trump was elected, we've become a 50-state party again. We're organizing everywhere. We're electing people everywhere. We're competing everywhere. And we're really focusing on key issues, whether it was gun violence reduction in Virginia, healthcare, education. Our diversity, I believe, is our greatest strength. And you look at the elections, you mentioned a few. We elected the first Muslim to the state Senate in Virginia last night. You see so many African Americans winning municipal elections across the country yesterday and in 2017 and in 2018, not to mention Congress and other things. So we're moving in the right direction, but we've got one more set of elections to go, and that's on November the 3rd of next year. And that's why we are not spiking the football today. We're continuing our work across the country.
The ground game matters, and that is, of course, you talked about only way you can run, or you can win is if you actually run. We saw last year where Democrats actually ran in all of the positions in North Carolina. I think people need to understand, sure, folks will be focused next year on Donald Trump. They'll be focused on the United States Senate and Congress. But the reality is we now see with the Supreme Court decision when it comes to political gerrymandering why you must have more balanced state Supreme Courts. Again, to end mass incarceration, targeting district attorneys' races. And that's why those progressive DAs that won all across the country, we saw affirmative action lagging right now in the ballot in Washington State. So bottom line is, in order to win, you have to turn people out. Simple as that.
And that's exactly what happened yesterday. You look at places like Kentucky, once again, people turned out in force in Louisville. People turned out in the rural pockets of the state. The governor there, who's about to become the ex-governor, he campaigned and governed on how can I be as mean as possible. What the winner showed is that there's nothing weak about kindness and compassion, making sure that everybody has a leg up, making sure that everybody has access to health care. In Virginia, there are a huge number of district attorney races won by progressives who understand that, if the only tool in your toolbox is a hammer, then pretty soon everything's going to start looking like a nail. So I'm really excited about what's happening across the country. But your point is absolutely correct. We've got to keep organizing everywhere. That's why The DNC, we knocked on 25,000 doors this past summer in Detroit, 20,000 doors in Milwaukee. 4 years ago, we did next to nothing because, frankly, we had taken voters in all too many communities for granted. We're in every state party. We're in every year party. We're in every zip code party.
Sybil?
Just interested as you are talking about this, and of course we have another debate coming up soon, Mr. Chairman, and wondering about your look as things are starting to slim down a bit amongst those vying for the Democratic nomination. What are you seeing?
Well, as we get closer and closer, obviously candidates are going to make decisions. We saw Congressman O'Rourke decide to leave the race last week, and I very much appreciate his presence in the race. And I imagine we'll see what happens in the weeks ahead. Obviously, we have a deep field, and that to me is great news. I coach basketball, and I've coached basketball now for 15 years in a row with my kids. I've never talked to a basketball coach, or any coach for that matter, who complained about having too much depth on his or her team. And we've got a lot of depth in our field. And the key for people to know is that, on the critical issues of healthcare, we want to make sure that everyone has access to quality, affordable healthcare. And thanks to Democrats, if you have a pre-existing condition now, you keep your coverage. Thanks to Democrats like LBJ, we've got Medicare and Medicaid. We want to get to the mountaintop of universal healthcare. The Republicans want to take us to the bottom of the mountain. Every single candidate understands that civil rights is the unfinished business of America, and we should build more schools and less prisons. And so I think the unity of values that we have is serving us well. And in the weeks and months ahead, we're going to be voting soon. And my main request is, folks, get out there and vote. The reason we're winning these last 3 elections is we've been having record turnout. The other side wants us not to vote. And in fact, they take a lot of steps to make it very hard to vote. And I had to sue a lot of states when I ran the Civil Rights Division because of these voter ID laws and other harsh measures to make it more difficult to vote. We can't let that happen. When we vote, we win.
Not to take anything away from what you have said and those who are out there voting, but please recognize and continue to encourage the backbone of the Democratic Party, which is Black women, to be a part of this process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Couldn't agree more. Alabama in 2017.
Exactly.
Judge Jones is in the United States Senate on the back of African-American women. And we're going to continue to do that and see that happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom
All right,
Perez,
Roland.
thanks a lot. Appreciate it, folks.
Thanks.
Enjoy Cabo.